Welcome to the Unfiltered Friends Podcast, where we humanize your favorite creators through their personal stories and then learn something from them. I hope you feel inspired by today's guest, and if you do, share it with someone who needs it. So without further ado, here is Unfiltered Friends. Hello, Unfiltered Friends. Today we have on my friend Kai. Kai and I had connected a long time ago on social media, and throughout my time there, I realized I'm just like Kai. I am very introverted. I never thought of myself that way, but then I noticed that one of the reasons I didn't think about myself that way is because there's a lot of misconceptions about people who are introverted. It's not that we hate people. We just recharge differently. And there's even different types of introverts. I had no idea about that. So enjoy this episode. It was really validating for me. And again, if you love what I'm doing, make sure you share it, rate it where you listen to it, and follow me on Patreon, patreon.com/unfilteredfriends, as we are an independent podcast. Hello, Unfiltered Friends. Today we're going to explore the world of the introvert. This is going to be the first time where I'm actually pretty versed on the world of the introvert, as I am one. So it'll be a really good back and forth with my friend Kai here, who makes a lot of introvert content, various other things. The Vibe with Kai is the name, correct?
That is
on
correct.
All the socials?
Yeah, man.
Okay. So Kai, you are an introvert.
Yes.
How does that feel?
You know what? I didn't know how to feel about it until fairly recently when I realized that it's something to be proud of in a way. You know,
Yeah.
It's like I know I would have never guessed that introversion would be like a whole like community of people that are like, yeah, stay away from me.
Maybe that's one of the reasons that we don't hear about that community and why people like you and me do so well, because we are introverted, but we do like to deliver messages.
Yes.
And so like we have essentially both become voices of the introverts who just want to mind their own business. So I have a feeling when people watch like content you make or I make about introversion, they scroll through, they go, heh, and they share, and then they move on with their lives, because that's the amount of interaction they're down for at that point in time.
Yes.
But I also feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about that world, which is something I definitely want to dive into. But I want to get to the source of you and in your realization of your introversion. I'm wondering if you were like me, where when I was younger, I was heavily involved with like musical theater and a lot of front-facing, attention-seeking behaviors. And I always identified as an extrovert. And it majorly shifted at some point in my life. And I'm wondering if you had the same experience.
100%. So growing up, I also was in the world of musical theater. Go us. We're so cool.
So cool.
And
we were the token straights.
Legitimately. Like I was one of like two straight guys. It was great at times. Say that.
Sometimes.
But on that end, I was also an athlete. So I was on the varsity basketball team. Like I was doing all of this stuff, and even though it's not, theatrical performing, you're still like performing, with your team and playing with the attention on you. So I too was like, oh, I'm clearly an extrovert. Clearly, because I'm just in front of people all the time. I was student government president, so I had to do like, in my senior year, so I had to do all this like, front facing stuff. And at some point, and I don't know when it was, but I realized that I was an extrovert, I guess. It seems like I was when I was in front of people, but when the lights dimmed down and it was just me by myself at the end of the day, I didn't want to be bothered. And it wasn't because I like hated people. It's just like I just wanted my time alone. And it took me a long time to realize that's like, oh, wait a second. I think I'm starting to understand what introversion actually is.
So what age was that where you started to have that shift in mindset?
I was in college, and I realized this because my friends would invite me out to parties on the campus. And I would be like, no, I'm gonna head home today, guys. And like people are like, oh, you party pooper, like all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm just, I didn't know how to describe it at the time, but like, if we were to use the terms that we use today, I was peopled out. I was just around people all day in classes and all of that. And I just wanted to like, just be by myself. And my friends used to like make fun of me for that. and I didn't fully understand why, but now as an adult, I understand why.
So what is introversion by your definition?
Introversion, the simplest way to describe it is how you recharge your battery, right? So
Mm,
some people want to recharge, or some people recharge their battery alone. Those are introverts, right? So you're around people all day. You don't mind technically being around people. People are fine, but your battery drains a little bit faster than most. Right. And then you
mhm.
have extroverts who prefer to recharge their battery with people around. So they don't want to be alone. Like when they're alone, that's when their battery is draining. So they want to go out and be around people and do all that type of stuff. So that's the easiest way I can describe it. It's obviously a lot more intricate than that for a lot of people,
Yeah.
but generally speaking, that's how I describe it, for me at least.
Did you ever take that Myers-Briggs test?
I did. I kind of
Do you
take those
remember
with a
what?
grain of salt though. But
Oh yeah.
I'm an INFJ.
I think I am INFJ too. So
Hmm.
I actually find that the I is less of an issue as a man than the N and the F.
Hmm.
It's like when you're intuitive and feeling, and a man, people are like, hmm,
What's something's going on there?
something.
What's that?
Yeah,
What's going on?
I didn't really start to grasp or understand that I wasn't extroverted until 3 years ago, and I'm 41.
Hmm.
Yeah, I always like wanted the attention, and musical theater and stuff was how I got it. And I loved being around people, and I loved going to like dances. And when I was in my 20s, I was like going to like club. I got kicked out of a club for taking my shirt
Yes,
off on the dance floor. Like,
as
does
one
that,
does.
well, yeah, but like, does that seem like the person you know today? Absolutely not. There was like a major shift in me, and I don't know how that. I feel like people naturally get more introverted as they get older. Have you
I think
found that
that's
to be
fair.
true for you?
I think that's fair because our circle of friends tends to dwindle down as well. So it's not like we have like a wealth of options, to
Yeah.
hang out with. A lot of times we're tired at the end of a long work day, so we just want to just want to go home and chill anyway. But I found it very interesting what you were saying in regards to like how you wanted the attention. And everything that you listed uh had a purpose to it, like you had a reason for doing it, right? So like you did theater because your reason was performing. You went to the
Hmm.
club because your reason was to dance and to sing and to have a good time. Like there was a reason. I think where introverts struggle is when there isn't like a reason, right? Like
Yeah.
if somebody comes up to you and just starts small talking, they're like, hey, what's up? It's like, why am I talking to
Whoa.
you? Why am I talking to you right now? What is the point? Why are we having this conversation? And I think that's what I'm starting to grasp as well. Like when we do something, there has to be a reason behind it.
Yeah.
you know?
I never really thought of it that way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like even when it comes to like going out to a bar, and like you see a girl who's like cute or whatever, unless something happens where it's a collective experience for both of us to react to, I am not talking to that girl. I will have to create whatever scenario in my brain to convince myself of why it wouldn't have happened in the first place.
Yes.
Because just, I don't know, I think it's really odd just walking up to a stranger and talking for no reason.
Yes, especially well, there is a reason, but you can't be clear about the reason right off the bat, right? You have to kind of
Yeah.
like feel it out, and it's also why I don't do well at like grocery stores, like at the checkout counter, because like they're talking to me, but I know they're talking to me only because they have to. They probably don't want to. So I'm like, let me save you the trouble and just go do self checkout. Because when you
Yes.
ask me how my day is going, you're asking me how my day is going. Like, do you really care, or like you're not even looking at me? You're swiping my stuff as you're like, hey, how's your day going? Boop boop. It's like you don't care. You don't care.
But
So
you don't know that they don't care. Maybe they do.
well, I think that's when that's when the fun old anxiety comes into play.
Oh, we love that. That's so much fun.
Yes.
Yeah, when
Self
they
checkout is the
oh,
best invention of
self
all
check,
time.
those Amazon stores that started to come out where you don't have to even do that part. It just scans as you go.
It just scans
What?
as you walk out. It's just like, oh, cool, have a good day. It's like I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to even like non-verbally interact with anybody.
I feel like the pandemic especially shifted things in the favor of
Yes.
introverts.
Hmm.
Can you give some examples from your experiences on how that shifted for you?
Yeah. I mean, it was a great excuse to not go out. You know, people will be like,
Sorry,
"No,
there's a pandemic. I don't know
there's
what to do.
there's people dying. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go to the bar. You know,
Yeah.
because my go-to now is with these gas prices. Like, it doesn't matter what the question is. Like, it'd be
You
like, hey
come up
Kai,
with
can you go,
something.
hey Kai, can you go to the kitchen and get something with these gas prices? You know, like, I just use that for everything. But honestly, it was one of those things where we were obviously forced to be alone. We were forced to stay away from people. And I think sometimes people were afraid to be alone. And as the pandemic, you know, kind of raged on, a lot of people realized, oh, it's not that bad. Okay, I can do what
Yeah.
I want when I want. And so for me personally, like, even though I did already like being alone, this kind of like reaffirmed it. I was like, this is a good feeling. I can, you know, just sit here, end my work day at my desk, and then just like not talk to anybody, and I feel good. I feel refreshed at the as I enter the next day.
Yeah. Some of the people who are watching this live are brought up the fact that there are different types of
There
introverts.
are, yes.
And I had never really thought of it that way.
Hmm.
So tell me which one you think applies most to you. I have a
I
guess.
so I actually I blogged about this
Oh, did you?
not too long ago, and it was I blogged about because I found there's four types of introverts,
Okay.
and mine revolves around the anxiety side of things,
Yeah, I was
right?
going to guess
Because
you're anxious introvert.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, absolutely. You know, so I was very much in my head about that. So the list that I have is social introverts, thinking introverts, anxious introverts, and restrained introverts.
Okay.
So I put myself under the anxious introverts, which anxious introverts are people who quite often feel self-conscious when they are in social situations. They just don't have the confidence to be a good socializer while amongst a
Mm.
group of people. They also often think about this when they're alone too. The pure thought of being amongst a group of people makes their anxiety skyrocket.
And I
That's me.
feel and I feel like that is the most common way that people view all introverts is that way. And it's just not really I don't I sometimes identify with that, but
Hmm.
not all the time.
Well, it's a very gray area, and like one of the, I guess, biggest misconceptions, because I mean, we were kind of alluding to this before. A lot of people think that introversion means shy, and that's not necessarily the case. Because I can schmooze like no other. Like, you put me in
Mhm.
a room, if I have to schmooze, if I have to like do whatever, if I have to talk on a live, if I have to, you know, do anything like that, I'll be fine. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not shy. I may not want to do it, but I'm not
Mm.
I'm not shy. And so people, when I tell people I'm an introvert, the first thing they'll say is, "No, you're too outgoing to be an introvert." And I'm like, I don't think you understand what introversion is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like people look at it as I dislike people.
Hmm.
For me, I'm just really particular about who I associate with because
Yes.
I think beyond introversion, I have a lot of empathy, and that
Mm-hmm.
causes the wrong people around me to drain me in a very quick way. So I have
Mm-hmm.
to be careful with who I share that energy with because I have limited stores before I'm like a cell phone.
Yeah.
You know, I start full, and depending on what I do out the day, it drains at different times, at
Mm-hmm.
different paces, and then I got to go charge or I'm not going to be functional anymore.
Absolutely.
I've never thought of it that way. That's
So
yeah.
so here's my question for you, because like you and I, we talked on the phone. Was it
Mm,
yesterday or the day before? I don't remember. But you and
yesterday.
I were talking on the phone, and one of the last things that you were saying, you're like, "Oh, my my battery's drained."
I
Like,
gave you
I
what I
used
have left.
I used the last bit of my battery on you. I was like, "Oh, thank you so much. That's the sweetest thing ever."
Yeah.
But I'm curious. So like, even when you're talking to somebody that you know or that you're friends with, does your battery drain slower, or does it drain a little bit faster?
Yeah, there are certain people that fill my cup. There are
Mm-hmm.
certain people that I can have great conversations with for periods of time, and there's certain people where it drains faster, and there's
Mm-hmm.
certain people I have to avoid like the plague, or
Oh
I'm going
yeah.
to be zonked for the
Oh
rest of the
yeah.
day.
Yes.
It's just this precious commodity of energy, and I have to be very careful with where I go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
that's me.
Yes. And as we get older, we become pretty good at it, at conserving and picking and choosing how we're going to use that energy. Because I think when we're younger, sometimes we're afraid that we're. Am I allowed to curse or no?
Go for it.
Like, sometimes we don't want to come off as a dick, right? So
Yeah.
like
I love
we
that the
just.
word you used was dick. I was
I
you're
know.
so wholesome.
I know. I know.
Can I use a bad word? Damn. Damn it.
By golly gee.
That's hilarious.
But like we don't want to come across as a dick, right? So like
Yeah.
we will force ourselves to talk to people, because we don't want them to hate us or they, or take us the wrong way. But as we get older, we're kind of like, I don't care how you view me.
Yeah.
I really don't
I
care.
think you just start to really understand the direction that things are about to go.
Yes.
And you're like, yeah, and I think that's true regardless of whether you're an introvert or an extrovert.
Yes.
Or in between, because it's a spectrum of things. Like I'm 60-40 introvert extrovert, so like it just depends on the scenario. But yeah, I think as I got older and I've been through enough scenarios, I'm like, yeah, I know where this one's going, and I'm just gonna go now. And people think you're so mean, but really I think I'm just done playing the game of making sure everyone else feels comfortable.
Well, right. And you removing yourself from that situation, they should be thankful, because like if I'm purposely removing myself from a situation knowing where it's going, I'm not going to be able to, number one, contribute to whatever's happening. If it's a conversation, I'm not going to be able to contribute. I'm clearly going to not want to be there. It's just going to give off this bad energy that is not going to be conducive for the good energy that you're probably trying to cultivate. So it's like, I'm going to remove myself from the situation because I know how I'm about to feel.
Yeah.
I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.
Okay, so let's describe that, because I feel like, and you tell me if you've had this experience, I know I have, where people don't understand the social cues. Hey, I don't have it. I need this time to separate. So describe what the feeling is and the thoughts are as you get to the end of your battery, and how people can see it and understand it.
The one thing that I'm really struggling with is that feeling hits really fast. Because I think I'll be okay. Because like I'll think I'll be okay, and then all of a sudden, boom, done. Done. And it's a major shift. And that's one of the things that I've been working on, just in general, just identifying the things that are like slowly draining my battery away. Because like at times, like I might be fine, and then all of a sudden I'll just think about something, and I'm just like, I need to go. I'm gonna leave. I need to leave.
So it's a thought that can drain you then.
Oh,
too.
Absolutely. It could be something not even related to what we're talking about. I might just all of a sudden think about, my chores for tomorrow, right? Whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden, like that kind of stuff also takes away from my battery, right?
Okay.
So it just happens all of a sudden. So that's one of the things that I'm working on, like the signs and the little triggers that kind of pull me back even more and more and more.
Okay. So describe it. So for people who aren't introverted, don't understand it, what goes on in your body, what goes on in your mind, and how can they help you? How can they be there for you when they don't understand what you're going through?
Right. That's a great question. So the best way I can describe it is, let's just say you're at work and you mess up on something, but nobody else knows that you messed up yet, but and they're eventually going to find out. That feeling that you have, knowing that pretty soon people are going to know, that little gut feeling is how I feel when it's time for me to go, right? I'm like, I know I need to go. I need to figure out a way to remove myself from the situation. They're going to find out eventually that I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
So like that feeling that you might get in certain situations like that, that's how I feel when it's time for me to bounce.
So it's almost like is it guilt?
Oh yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. It's definitely part of it, because like sometimes I'll begin a conversation, I'll start a conversation, I'll be actively participating in a conversation, and then all of a sudden I won't be, right? And I'll feel bad because it's like this conversation is happening because of me. I'm a vital part of this conversation, and I'm going to be removing myself, and I don't know. I don't know what they're going to talk about when I leave. Though I'm sure they'll be fine, but like in my head, I'm like, what are they going to talk about if I'm not there?
Oh man, yeah, that's we'll get into like the different types and break them down. But like, I don't actually identify with that at all. That's really the difference in the spectrum of introversion. So for you, with being an anxious introvert, how does that physically manifest? What kind of reactions are you having to the conversation as well?
Sudden mood swing, man. Like I'll be very outgoing with my conversation, and then I'll get quiet.
Yeah.
It'll be like very, very sudden. And it'll be as if I got like hit by a truck, like an emotional truck, right? And I'll just stop being as active, and I'll barely make eye contact. I'll begin to get very fidgety as well. I'll be stuttering my words. I'll lose my part in the conversation. I'll lose what I'm talking about more easily. Things like that will usually happen to me.
And then what's the best way for someone to help you in that situation?
I think if they recognize that like I clearly don't want to be there anymore, but they don't want to make it awkward, just be like, "Oh, well, guys, that's great. So, blah blah blah," and then move the conversation, or either dismiss the conversation or dismiss the moment, whatever, making it easy for me to escape, right?
Yes.
Or just be like, "Hey, if I'm close enough with them and they're able to, talk to me in this way, be like, hey, are you feeling all right? You want to go home?" I'll be like, yeah, thanks.
Bro, let me tell you, I'm going to tell you a scenario that happened recently, and I instantly bonded with this person from that moment on. I was at a podcaster conference in Orlando last month, and I had like met a bunch of people. Man, you want to go somewhere like where you can have like the most amazing deep conversations, go to a podcaster conference. They're the most wonderful humans. I've had 2 experiences and both were incredible.
Yeah.
So I'd met this girl earlier in the day, and then there was a kind of after party for one of the nights of the conference at Howl at the Moon. Do you know what Howl at the Moon is?
We have one in Philly. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of small, kind of packed. This is less introversion and more anxiety, because I used to work in nightclubs, and when crowds would get packed like that, that's when fights would happen. So I get in a fight or flight, and I'm fight. So I don't like that feeling. So I walk in, and it is wall to wall packed, shoulder to shoulder people. And then I see her, and I look at her, and all I said was, "Oh, I don't know." That's all I said. And she looked at me. She's like, "Do you want to go outside and talk?" And I was like, "Oh, yes."
Tell me you put a ring on it.
Oh,
at
well,
that very second.
She's not single, but I did appreciate, and I just sat outside one-on-one with her, and people would cycle through, but I didn't have to be in that pile of people. And let me tell you, you want to make an introverted person love you, recognize the sign, have sympathy or empathy for it, and help them feel like it's okay to leave. And that you will have, that loyalty will be forever, because I don't think societally we cater towards that, towards introverts. It's a very extroverted society, and you're looked at as like lame or stick in the mud or whatever,
boring, just like
but in reality, like I literally, my whole body aches. I have like a pit of my stomach feeling, and I'm not trying to ruin anybody else's time, but I also have nothing left to give. So when you see that face, and you help me, oh, forget it. Ring on it, friend for life, whatever the capacity for our relationship, that is happening.
Now I'm curious. How are you with like sounds? Because for me, like
the people watching right now are people who have experienced me on live stream, and there is an alert. It's a jump scare alert, and it's so many different things, but every single time, even if I know it's coming, I go, like, so they're all cracking up right now because I struggle with sudden noises.
Okay. So it's sudden noises for you. For me, it's just loud noises in general that are not supposed to be loud situations. That really bothers me. Yes, like that kind of stuff. Also, even if I'm in an environment where people are being loud when they're not supposed to be loud, I will just like take myself out of whatever I was doing, because in my head I'm like, I don't want to add on to the loudness that's happening here. It happened recently for Christmas. My family from all over, we all gathered at a hotel, right? So that way we can all like do Christmas together. And the hotel lobby, the hotel let us have the lobby to open up presents and stuff, right? It was because it was a lot of people there, so they let us use the hotel lobby to open up presents. And so like it was fine, but as the night went on and the night got late, my family, who had been drinking, like they're still like fairly loud, and I just felt so uncomfortable, and I wanted to leave so much because I could see that the person at the front desk wanted to say something and they didn't know how, right? And then I'm like, I'm not going to talk to anybody because I don't want to contribute to the loudness that's in here. and I just removed myself from everything, and I literally just sat there like unable to like do anything.
Yeah.
I was so uncomfortable and I wanted to leave.
I think for me, if things are too loud, I just get irritated because it's disrespectful. That's what I feel.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel
Yes.
like you're not
Mhm.
respecting the fact that you're in a public
Yes.
space and you don't
Mhm.
care about anyone but yourself, and that sort
Mhm.
of thing just
Yes.
irks. Just
Mhm.
irks.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's break down the different types of introverts and what they mean. Since you are versed in this, we'll just go straight to you instead of
Yeah.
this article I pulled up. So break down the 4 main types of introversion.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm really glad that you're asking this because I literally blogged about this. So if anybody's listening or watching that wants to, read more about this, the research that I did, go to my website, ThevibewithKy.com, and in the search bar, just type in introverts, and it's going to be the first thing that pops up.
Okay.
So I realized that there's 4 different types. So we can go through each one
Yeah.
real quick. So we have social introverts. So social introverts would rather not put themselves in a social situation unless they absolutely have to. If we do, you'll find us most likely in smaller groups. It doesn't mean that they are shy per se. It's just a preference that they have. Those are social introverts.
I think that's me.
Mhm.
I think that's what
And also there might be a lot of gray area too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it might be one of those things like you might identify with like little things from each one,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
So those are social introverts. Then you have thinking introverts. Thinking introverts are simply people who do a lot of self-reflection. They process internally and they often find themselves traveling around their creativity space in their brain. So they'd rather kind of like process like inside here and
Yeah.
process with like other people around or talk it out with people, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. I kind of identify with some of that
Mhm.
as well. Okay.
Yeah. And then we have anxious introverts, which we were talking about before, right? And then we have
Wait,
the
well,
last one
explain
is
it for people who maybe this
oh
is a
yeah.
clip. I don't know.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's fine. So, anxious introverts are people who quite often feel self conscious when they are in social situations. They just don't have the confidence to be a good socializer while amongst groups of people. They also often think about this when they are alone, too. The pure thought of being amongst a group of people makes their anxiety skyrocket. So,
Mm.
like we could be having this conversation and somebody might be listening right now, and if they're an anxious introvert, just the thought of putting themselves in that situation that you were in at Howl at the Moon in the first
Oh,
place
yeah.
makes
Ugh.
them cringe,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. And then you have restrained introverts. So restrained introverts are quite simply people who think everything through before they take action or say anything out loud. Everything is thought out and planned before the action takes place.
Oh, I know. The Annika is like my friend Annika is like that. That's
Hmm.
yeah. That
Hmm.
you what I when I speak to her, I watch her brain. Like
Yeah.
she takes. Sometimes I don't know if there's a lull in the conversation or she's processing, and 95% of the time she'll take 10, 15 seconds to respond, and she's
Hmm.
just really thinking through what she is doing.
Absolutely. Luckily, I don't struggle with that, right? I'm able to like, and I think it's because of my theater background and like the improv classes that I used to take in high school and in college and things like that, where I'm able to think on my feet pretty quickly. So I don't necessarily have to think things all the way through, like during a conversation. I do like having things planned out, but like if it goes awry, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Right? As long as I have like an escape plan, I'm fine.
I'm trying. Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe social introvert is the most common.
Yeah, I would believe so as well.
Yeah.
Because like, and I love the last sentence. It says it doesn't mean that they are shy per se. It's just a preference that they have. So I can definitely identify with that, and just being among smaller groups. If I am familiar with the people in that group, if it's like a group project, and it's like a bunch of people that I don't know, I'm like,
Yeah. I think. Do you feel like you're majorly affected by the energy of everyone around you?
That's a great question. I truly do believe that moods and energies are contagious. However, I feel as though if somebody else is in a negative Nancy mood,
Yeah.
that doesn't affect me as much as it might affect other people, right? Because as a people pleaser, the first thing that I'm thinking of is, okay, how can I help this situation? How can I make negative Nancy a positive Patty? You know,
You
like
gotta stop
that's in
that.
my head.
You have to
I know.
stop that. I had to
I
stop
know.
that.
And I've gotten a lot better at it, dude. But like, man, like it used to be a lot worse
Yeah.
back in the day. Now I kind of just like I'll bite my tongue. I'll kind of hold back on a bunch of things. But man, like the first thought that comes into my head is like, okay, how can I fix this situation? How can I make this person happy?
That sounds like control. Maybe that's connected to your anxiousness.
Most likely, 100%.
Yeah, I had to stop doing that. That's literally in my nature to do every time. And I had to come to the realization that, like, one, this person probably doesn't feel like they need to be fixed, or they enjoy themselves exactly how they are. And who am I? Who am I to do that? You know?
Yeah, and I put myself in their situation. Like, would I want somebody to try to fix me? Probably
No.
not.
I feel like
Probably
most
not.
people are resistant to that. You know, that's also where I learned the phrase. This is especially in most of my like strong relationships are with women, and my nature as a man is solution based. So I had to learn the phrase, do you want solutions or do you want to vent? So I had to clear that, because I would initially just start, because to me it's like, oh, here's a problem, now we solve it. And then I would watch my friend, usually a female friend, get so irritated. And I was like, but I'm trying to help.
Yes.
But that is not the way that a lot of women operate typically. So that's why I asked the question. And fellas, learn this phrase. Do you want to vent or do you want solutions? And that will save you so many arguments and so much frustration.
That honestly is one of the things that played a major factor in my most recent relationship, is that I wanted to fix certain situations, right? So like when there was a situation where, you know, she would be upset about something, I think that I would often come across as not empathetic because I was just trying to be like, okay, so this is what we can do. And then she would be like, no. I just need you to listen to me right now.
Yeah.
And just like be a shoulder, be an ear. And I realized that I've been doing that my whole life. And it wasn't until I started doing self-reflection, you know, after my breakup, that I was like, okay, I think I'm starting to understand what's going on here, and how I can navigate situations like that.
So how has introversion affected your romantic relationships? Like, what ways does it show up in your romantic connections?
So it's actually a big struggle, right? Because I need space, right?
And sometimes that's taken as rejection, isn't it?
100%. So and once again, and I'm going to use my most recent relationship as an example, you know, because it's just fresh in my brain, right? But when you're with somebody that wants that constant physical contact, which there's no problem with, like, people are like that. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. But for me, I need that space, right? So like if you and I are in the same room, and I'm sitting on my one end of the couch reading a book, and you're sitting on the other end of the couch on your laptop doing something, your presence in and of itself is enough for me.
I love alone together.
Yes,
I love it.
100%.
Yeah.
And I'll come over, I'll give you a kiss on the forehead and be like, hey, hope you're having a good day, or whatever it may be. Like, you know, hey, what do you want for dinner? You know, like stuff like that. You don't have to always just be like physically connected or physically talking to each other. And there was a lot of times in my previous relationship where that was an issue, where I legitimately just wanted to be alone. And it's my fault for not communicating. Yes. Right. I did not communicate well at all in that regard. I just needed to, you know, be alone. And to your point before, it was kind of taken off as a rejection, or I don't care for you, as like it came off like I don't care for this person anymore. When really I did care. Right. I just needed a little bit of space, you know, because that's how I refill my battery in romantic relationships and in general.
Yeah, I would find that too. And I was like, and if I am in my like recharge time and I'm around you and I feel connected to you, I would find that if you would like, what are you doing? That would irk me to like a pretty high degree. But you're right. Like, it really is on on people like you and I to communicate that, because it's not typical to the way that people view how humans
Correct.
connect. Like my best friend just came to visit me, and I realized that we had been sitting next to each other going through TikToks for an hour, and I didn't even realize it, but I still had that full feeling like I am connecting with them. So it's really about like being honest with yourself about, can we meet each other's needs? Because if your need is physical contact, constantly talking, I just don't have it. Like I would be giving up a lot of what I need to meet what you need. And then if it was reversed, where you were trying to cater to me, you would be foregoing a lot of what you need for what I need. So
absolutely,
be honest with yourself about, can I be with someone who, and also to not personalize. And I have a habit of personalization and making things about me when it's not. And thank you, therapy. We've worked on that quite a bit. But like, if you're with someone who is majorly introverted, or is in their recharge phase, it really is not a rejection of you. I promise you.
It's really not.
Because frankly, if I didn't want you in my life, you wouldn't be there. I would be by myself.
Wouldn't be. I swear to God, if I did not want to be in this relationship, I would not be here, because I'm busy, right? And there's a lot of things going on in my life. I want you here. Your presence means the world to me, right? But I did a really horrible job at communicating that, because I was just expecting them to know, when that's not fair to that person. And I found that like the reason that she needed that physical touch, it was a reassurance thing, and when somebody has gone through a lot of trauma in their life, they often need like a constant reassurance to, because they're kind of like reliving a lot of things from the past, which is understandable. The sucky part is that like I too have am thinking about previous traumatic instances for me where I just needed space, and I did not get that space, and I'm reliving things in my head too. So it's like this really, really awkward moments with each other when you need space, they need touch, and it's just like we can't meet halfway. There's some sort of issue here.
Yeah. I thought maybe I was just like broken and wasn't going to be able to like find someone. But I think, what do you think about the matchup between an extrovert and an introvert? What is the ways that it could go right?
Well, I mean, this is going to sound so cliche, but like communication is key, right? And by communication, I mean in the moment, right? So like if somebody comes up to, if somebody, whether it's a romantic partner, a friend, family, whatever, if they come up to you like, hey, let's go out tonight, you have to be okay with saying, hey, listen, I'm going to stay in tonight. We can maybe, if you want to go, blah, blah, blah. You have to be okay with communicating in the moment. Or let's just say I am next to you, we're watching TV, and I just need a little bit of space, being able to communicate like, hey, I'm going to go sit over there for a little bit and just kind of be in my own little world, and explain to them, hey, I'm doing this because I just need this for me real quick. I need this for me. I love you. I care for you. I'm just going to love you from over here. Which, and I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but I think this is, I'm curious what your thoughts are. There are a lot of couples that live together but don't sleep together.
Yes.
And I think that's brilliant, right? Because like and by sleep together, I mean like literally
in
sleep,
the same bed,
right? Right, like sleep in the same bed. Like they will retire to their own rooms at the end of the night. They're still sexually active. They're still like loving each other, all of that. But like when it comes time to actually go to sleep, one will retire to their room and have their space at night. And like whenever I bring that up, some people are like, oh, I don't know, and which is understandable. But like I'm not against that at all.
No.
I think if it works for that relationship, like it could work for me, like being able to just like be in my own space and do what I want when I go to sleep and have like, that's fine with me.
Yeah. That's like, so I'm single way more than I am in relationships, because I take commitment really seriously. Like if I get to the point of saying like, you're my person and nobody else, I take that seriously. So like part of my brain is like that sleeping time together is a way of connecting. But also like I know I will struggle when I end up in a relationship again, sharing my bed with someone, because I'm so used to not. So I think it really, to me, would depend on how well are we connecting outside of bedtime.
Yes.
Are we meeting each other's needs outside of bedtime? But I think
Yes.
this is true of any relationship. We all have individual needs. We all have things that work for us and don't. And it's not a matter of you aren't giving me what I need, you're a bad person. It's we can't meet each other's needs. We're not a good match. And I think the need to demonize has caused a lot of people to forego even having the conversation.
Absolutely.
You know, and unless they're doing something cruel to you, it's just two people with different needs and you can't meet each other's needs.
Right. And I think that is, it's so, I was listening to a podcast, fairly recently, and they were saying on the podcast how it's okay. Sometimes just relationships just don't work. There's not like an evil intention behind it. There's not like, I'm going to make this person miserable, like purposefully. No, just sometimes it just doesn't mesh.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't work. And, I try not to take things personally,
Yeah.
Whenever something like that happens, because like I know my role in the downfall of anything that goes on. But like on the other end, it's like I know that like nothing is maliciously being done.
Yeah.
Do I make mistakes? Absolutely. tons of mistakes, right? But on the other end, sometimes like those mistakes are just the result of just things not clicking, and that's okay. To be able to just say to yourself and your partner in a comfortable way, things are not clicking. I do care for you. I care for your happiness. I care for my happiness too. And right now I'm just not happy. And I think we need to have a further conversation and not having afraid to have that talk, and people are afraid to have that talk because it's hard.
If you're like truly afraid based on what you think your partner's reaction will be, that's a really big sign that there's going to be uncomfortable conversations. I should never feel unsafe to express my needs, and my partner shouldn't feel unsafe either. So that's why it's important to keep those doors of communication open. And especially when you have a complicated dynamic, say extrovert. And I feel like if I end up with an extroverted person, as long as they're understanding of my needs, it'll probably bring me out of my shell a lot more too. And that could be a great opportunity for me to expand my experiences. But they also have to understand that like, I don't charge when I go out into the world. I lose battery power. And when it's done, and I got to go. And I still love you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find an extroverted empath.
Yeah.
that's what I want.
That would be delightful. So you touched on like introvert and shyness. What is the difference between, because people think that introverts are shy. I wouldn't say I'm shy. I wouldn't say that you're shy. We're both introverted people. What is the difference between introverted and shy?
Right. So shy it's not a part of introversion or extroversion, right? It's something that can happen, right? But shyness is just a mind, like this mindset, like it's like I don't feel comfortable speaking up. I don't feel comfortable being in a certain situation, right? It's just like I'm not going to do it, so I kind of close up a little bit, right? For introversion, I think it goes a little bit deeper than that, right? Because when you're an introvert, it doesn't necessarily mean that you feel uncomfortable in public settings all the time. You just don't want to put yourself in that situation in the first place, or once you're ready to leave that situation, you're just going to leave. Right. So it's for shyness, like you're going to become a totally different animal. Like you're just going to close all the way down. Not saying that introverts don't do that, but like, but if you think that introversion is based solely on shyness, you're going to be very surprised at who you find out is an actual introvert.
I have a big personality. Just I'm careful with who I share it around.
Absolutely. Like I can't do small talk. I can't. Like people like, and if anybody in here ever or that's listening or watching, if you want to send me a DM, that's perfectly fine. I try to respond to as many as I can, but your DM can't just be like, "Hey, I'm not going to respond." Right? Like I'm not going to respond because I can't do that.
It's the same thing with
I feel weird.
Dating apps. I deleted them because I have more haze in my message than could fill a horse barn. Like look, and it's and then I'm like, hey, I need some personality here. They're like, well, it's so hard. I was like, are you talking to a man about how hard being rejected on a dating app is? Like, there's very few things that I can say men have the market cornered on, and I would say rejection, especially in the dating world, is one of them.
Definitely up there. Understandably so, because men can be weird sometimes. So
is this you? Okay. If
Right.
no, hold on. I'm telling the story. So
Yeah.
this is me, and tell me if you identify with this. I go to a party, right?
Hmm.
Which isn't a common occurrence, but I do like to go to parties every once in a while. I know a handful of people in the room. I find a person and I think they're really interesting. And 2 hours later, I've only talked to that person in the corner of the room.
I'm I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. That's
Yeah.
fine with me.
I'm like, am I lame?
No.
I was like, no, I just think this person is interesting and I don't want to have to go through the pain of
Hmm.
restarting this process.
Absolutely, especially if you're in the midst of a good conversation where you are either giving off knowledge that you know that they're interested in, or you're receiving insight or knowledge that you're interested in, and just having a good conversation with that person, like that could be that is the party for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the party for me. I think everybody goes about navigating a party differently. Some people want to go out, want to go and hang out with everybody, be like, yeah, let's go do shots, everybody gather around, and some
Mm-hmm.
people just want to, like, I prefer going to like a lounge than a bar, because
Yeah.
I can go sit on some comfy couch with a nice little glass table and my whiskey ginger, and just have like a conversation, with soft music playing in the background. Like, that's my vibe. I
Yeah.
might sit there for all night, just get, that's how I get drunk.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there all night, just vibing. It's not necessarily me moving around, dancing, and all of that. No,
No. And I used to work at nightclubs. I don't know how I did that. I was
I
a
don't know how you did
bartender,
it either.
bro. And I worked
I
at
don't know how
a
you did
place
that.
that was open till 4 a.m. They played house music.
No.
You can only drink till 2. So the 2 to 4 a.m. crowd was all pill
Oh
poppers
my
and
gosh.
crackheads. And it
Oh
was
my
just
gosh.
like, it was like really, really, I don't know how I did it. Oh, I know how I did it. I needed money.
Well, yeah,
And you,
that's the most. It's amazing when we need money, what we'll do. One of my jobs, I worked for years at Six Flags Great Adventure, and for those of you that don't know,
with
Six
the
Flags Great
safari.
Adventure, yes,
I used to live in Jersey. So,
Wait, you want to know something funny? Actually,
yes.
really funny.
Yes.
Quick sidebar. If anybody goes to the safari at Six Flags Great Adventure, and you turn on the tour guide voice, it's me.
That's you?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm with a celebrity. Wow. I didn't know
It
that.
took like 8 hours to do a recording session for all those freaking animals. Some of which I didn't even know existed.
Well, now you're so versed.
Right, right. But like, so you know this already. So Six Flags Great Adventure is sitting like right smack dab in the middle of Philadelphia and New York, and they all combine into one area to go ride
Yeah.
roller coasters and sit in lines for 3 hours in the hot sun. Right. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not really a conducive environment for happiness sometimes.
No.
And that I don't know how I did that, because I was working in rides, and so I had to interact with people all the time. And you want to talk about my battery being drained at the end of the day, like
Mm.
doing like that kind of customer service type of thing was really difficult for me. But I didn't have trouble waiting tables. I don't know, it's really weird.
13 years I waited tables.
Yeah, I did it for
Because there
7.
was a purpose for me walking up to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I made
Mm-hmm.
money.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And I also viewed it kind of like a performance in a way, right? Like I'm still me, but like I'm performing. Well, I want to entertain. I want them to be satisfied with their meal. And all of that. I want them to leave being happy. Like, that's my job. That's my responsibility. So
Yeah.
like I was able to easily, I guess, distract myself from that. I loved waiting tables. I loved it.
Me
I didn't
too.
like the side work. That's the part that
I
I'm
don't
like,
think
"Ugh, I'm
anybody
good."
does. People try to skip out on that all the time.
Yeah, but I loved waiting tables.
So, okay, I have a handful of questions from my
Mhm.
Patreon folks. You down to
Yeah.
answer some of those?
Yeah,
If you
let's
guys
do it.
ever want to ask questions to your favorite guests on here, like I announce it beforehand. It's patreon.com/unfilteredfriends. That's how we support the podcast. The first question is from Annika.
Hi,
And
Annika.
she asked, what routine have you found that works well for you to recharge your social battery and also take care of yourself when you're drained from socializing?
That's great. So I think the answer for this is, for everybody, is going to be a little bit different, but I'll just tell you what I do.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, you want to do something that makes you happy when you're alone. So for some people, it might be reading a book. For some people, it might be watching TV. For me personally, I love sitting down at my computer and writing out content, or writing a blog, like that kind of, any kind of creative aspect of that. Like, that's how I refill my glass, right? Or my battery. I want to be able to just do something creative on my own,
Yeah.
without other people around. Like, I'm just kind of like in my space. That's how I do it. It's a really, really fulfilling thing for me, because I'm being productive by myself, and I'm just getting my artistic feels out there.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I definitely do like the zoned out scrolling of like TikTok or Instagram or something like that. But what I found, and this was actually like a post-therapy thing as well, was cleaning. I
love cleaning.
Organ. I was never like this. Yeah, oh, he's really excited.
I was so excited. I just bought this today, right? So this is wood. I have wood floors. I went to the CVS and I got this, and I'm so excited to clean my floors tonight.
Method wood floor cleaner.
Yes.
Does it have you're giving me ideas for I also have wood floors. So
yeah, I'm so excited. You have no idea.
Because to me, what I think it is I feel out of control. So that is a way to take control of my space. And so like I will spend sometimes, I remember before I went home for Christmas, I went through my entire place and just took everything off the shelves and purged myself of things that I didn't need. I threw all that stuff out or donated it and then thoroughly cleaned so that I could come back to a wonderful space. And I was never like that. And I love it. I always feel better and accomplished at the end of that.
Do you need to hit the reset button sometimes? Like, for example, like I, the other day, took out a bunch of clothes that I feel like, I'm like, I wear these all the time. I need new clothes. So I put them in bags and I donated them. Do you find yourself hitting the reset button on things a lot or no?
Not with clothes. I hold on to clothes forever because I hate clothes shopping. That's a whole other layer. I have body image issues, and but I think in more so I just need to like be separate. I need to take control of whatever space I'm in because when my battery is done, I feel vulnerable. I feel like because I do really well with my words. I can talk myself out of any situation because I've had to most of my life. But if I'm drained, I can't protect myself.
Yes,
from anybody.
That is the key right there. I'm so happy you said that because like when your battery is drained, you stop fighting. You stop fighting. You know how you're feeling. You know, like you often go throughout your day, you know, convincing yourself, I need to talk to this person. I need to do this because you have to, right? And at the end of the day, when you don't have to, and it all comes down to whether you want to, right? Like you tend to not fight. So the word vulnerable, I think is brilliant because like you are just stripped down. It is just you. Yeah. And whatever comes through, it's like, man, like, it's hard, man.
You're all your armor's gone. And that's a very like scary feeling sometimes. Hallie asks, where have you found the greatest amount of acceptance as an introvert, and can I come too?
Within myself. It's going to sound so weird saying that, so like cliche, but like I've learned how to validate myself. I went so long, even fairly recently, wanting the validation of other people. And I felt like every action I took, any video that I put out there, anything that I wrote, I'm like, I'm not going to be happy unless people like me. I'm not going to be happy unless everybody is a fan. I'm not going to be happy unless 2 million people follow me and they're like, Kai, good job, and pat me on the back and all that stuff. And then I realized I was always feeling rejected. I was always feeling down. I was always feeling like a failure. And I didn't know why. And then I realized, and thank you, therapy. I look up to God. Thank you, therapy. You know,
your therapist is tall.
Yeah, very, very tall. But like I found that like I was setting this impossible expectation on myself when it comes to what success is, right? And then I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Take a step back. Why do you need user 45371's validation? You don't. If you're making content that you like and you're happy with it, that's your validation in and of itself. So where do I find my acceptance? Right here. All right here, because that's all I need. And it's not selfish. Enough. Yeah, it's not selfish to think that. A lot of people are like, "Oh, maybe I'm being selfish." It's okay to believe that, like, you know, to think that way. You know, it's okay to trust yourself enough that you can validate your own actions and your own thoughts.
Yeah, and the people who are speaking ill of you are just unhappy people, because happy people don't do that.
Yeah, and they just sometimes they just want something to talk about because it's entertaining.
Yeah, to them. I enjoy
Yeah.
that. What a weird way to exist.
What a weird hill to die on.
Do you, boo? Care Bear asks, do you find that you're getting more introverted as you get older, and how do you navigate around that?
Yeah, I think, and I was kind of alluding to this in the beginning. As we get older, our circle of friends dwindle down. We go throughout our day, working hard jobs, and as we get older, obviously our energy, just physical energy, gets depleted sometimes as well. So, yeah, I do feel that I become more of an introvert, but it's mainly because like the options of possible things to do are starting to limit themselves a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And not in a bad way. Like I can't just go out and do a cartwheel anymore because I'm gonna have to stretch and like do all
Right.
this stuff. So like that's what I mean. It's like the options are starting to dwindle down a little bit, and that's not a bad thing. But when the options dwindle down, you're left with a bunch of things that you just don't feel like doing or don't want to do or situations you don't want to find yourself in, and that's not a bad thing. So yeah.
I used to get a lot of FOMO, like I was missing out on a
Mm,
lot of different
mhm,
things.
mhm.
And I had to learn my no. I had to learn my boundaries, and I had to honor myself.
Yep.
And I found there was a lot of anxiety over saying no because I felt like I was disappointing other people while
Yes.
disappointing myself
Yes.
and hurting
Absolutely.
myself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was just at an event in Michigan. I was doing a speaking engagement, and after the speaking engagement, there was like a big dinner and like award ceremony thing, and then they were having like this big after party.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been doing like the workshops and the speaking stuff like throughout the entire day. I was traveling all day as well because I just only spent like 24 hours in Michigan, and so by the time the after party came around, I could have easily stayed and just like hung out and partied, and they wanted me to, and I legitimately stopped myself. I'm like, I have to go, I have to leave, and for like 2.5 seconds, I felt guilty. I felt
Horrible.
like, oh man, they flew me all the way out here. They want me to interact with the people here. I do want to interact and blah blah blah. Wait a second, no, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And then it was fine. I was like, oh, it's okay. They got to spend all day with me.
And then like the podcast conference I went to, like, yes, I could network a little bit more, but I went to sleep, and then the next day I was ready to show up on a
Hmm.
level that I would. So it's
Yes.
either like honor yourself for these moments and be great later, or I think that's true in any situation, but I think
Hmm.
you have to be particularly careful with it when
Hmm.
you are an introvert.
Right. You know your energy better than anybody else, so use that knowledge to your advantage.
Genzo asks, is it harder for an introvert to be in a relationship with an extrovert?
I think that if the extrovert needs to do extrovert things all the time and doesn't ever want to do any sort of introversion or doesn't respect your introversion, um and by the way, I'm saying this goes both ways too. Like, so like if
Yes.
it's an extrovert, like I would give the same answer just in reverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
um so if you're with somebody that's just not respectful of your needs, and just more focused on their needs, just in general, whether it's two extroverts, two introverts, doesn't matter. Um, then things become difficult. But the minute that you continue to have these fluid conversations with each other, the better it'll be, right?
Yeah.
And the easier it'll be to make decisions. You might realize that, like, hey, I don't want to. I don't think this is going to work. Or you might discover new things. You were talking about this before. You were saying, hey, if I'm dating an extrovert, they might actually get me to come out and do
Yeah.
something that I wouldn't normally do, and I'd be okay with it. So it's kind of like this really cool discovery that you'll find when you're with somebody that is able to listen and be empathetic.
Yeah, I think regardless of introvert, extrovert, whatever, ambivert,
Hmm.
you need to be with someone who can communicate their needs and
Hmm.
is willing to respect and meet your needs.
Yes,
That's balance
absolutely.
in any sort of connection.
Yes. Hmm.
Um, all right, one more question
Hmm.
from the group. I have one more question after that.
Hmm.
Sorry. Alan says, how do we as introverts communicate with extroverts or just the world in general to not overly push us to interact?
By speaking in English to them. So here's the thing. It's not complicated. And Alan, I appreciate your question because, I think we oftentimes overcomplicate communication when really it's as simple as, like, the same way that you just wrote your question is the same way that you can explain yourself to another person,
Mhm.
right? You just did it. Right? You just
Yeah.
explained, like, I need this, or I want this, and all of that. That's how you do it. And then from there, you can have that conversation. So you don't ever have to think about some, like, okay, how am I gonna, work this into the conversation? How blah, blah, blah. No, just talk. If they speak the same language as you, go right on
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I think we overcomplicate communication quite often. It's just
Yes.
about, I think we overcomplicate because we don't want to find out that the person that we're talking to isn't for us.
We're protecting ourselves. We're protecting our
Mhm.
feelings a lot of the times.
Yeah.
We're afraid to face things that we may not be ready for emotionally.
Man, I gotta tell you, man, this whole conversation has made me feel seen in so many different ways, and I have a feeling there's a lot of people. If you feel seen by this, make sure you share it with someone. Yeah, I think I feel like these are really important conversations to have that aren't had as often as I think could help people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, speaking of help people, final question.
Yeah.
I know I would have needed this. I had to kind of learn the hard way, but say someone is introverted and feeling very rejected by society and alone. What advice would you give to someone who is introverted but wants to have a happy life with people, but is struggling to do that?
Right. At the end of the day, you're going to want to make sure that you are living in the moment, right? There's going to be times where you might want to go do something that you wouldn't normally do. Go do it. If you have that urge, go do it. One thing that I've learned is that I realized I was always either dwelling on the past or worried about the future, and I was never living in the present, right? And as a result, I was limiting myself because I'm like, I'm an introvert. I would never do that, right? You end up painting yourself into this corner.
Yes.
And then there's times when you're in the moment and you're like, actually, I do want to go to that party. Go to the party, right? And then you'll be able to bring yourself back out, when you're uncomfortable, whatever it may be. But live your truth, be you, know your energy levels and what triggers it, and then remove yourself from the situation when it comes down to it. But, like, just go do it. Go do it. And also, don't be afraid to not do it. Don't be afraid of what other people say or think about you wanting to pull back. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's like a little immersion sometimes where, like, get outside of your comfort zone for as long as you're okay with. And then when you're done, leave, and do so graciously as you can. I've definitely done a few, what they call Irish goodbyes or whatever. I'm just like, poof. Like, I say hi, I say goodbye to my emotional support extrovert and I leave.
Yeah. Yep.
But like, you're never going to grow if you're always in that comfort zone. And then and I'll leave you guys with this one thing that someone said to me that really hit home and made me change the way that I viewed myself, because I've labeled myself an introvert for such a long time. And I got a DM from somebody. It's like, hey, I can't wait for you, instead of labeling yourself as an introvert, just to understand that you're a complex person like anybody else. That took so much, because I'm not stuck in a box anymore. It's like, yeah, I have those elements. I have many other elements.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's okay to be all of those things.
Yes, absolutely.
So if people want to reach out to you, how do they do that?
The best way is to visit my website, ThevibewithKy.com. It has all of the information in there. If you want to follow me on certain social media platforms, if you want to follow me on Patreon, if you want to listen to my podcast, whatever it may be, it's all there. All the information is there. And don't be afraid to shoot me a message. I love hearing from people. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any further questions. I love having those conversations. Just don't say hey.
Just don't say hey.
Just don't say hey.
You understand how many heys you're about to get, right?
Oh, I know.
Especially for my people. They're going to troll
I know
so hard.
I know. It's okay. From your people, if you can say hey, but then put like a winky face next to it, then I'll know.
Yeah. So if you DM Kai, put hey winky face, so that you're not one of those people. Okay. You're not a hey person. You're just messing with them. Well, thank you for being on Unfiltered Friends, and I really enjoyed this conversation.
No, thank you, man. We've known each other for quite some time,
Yeah.
and I appreciate the knowledge that you've given me just as a content creator and a friend.
Yeah.
Honestly, we go way back, and I don't know where I'd be without you, my friend. So thank you.
Love that.
I mean it.
All right, man. Well, we'll talk after this, I'm sure.
Yes.